The scenario is the Mariners sign James Paxton to be their number 5 starter. You have to trade one of Bryce Miller or Bryan Wu. Lyle, what could they get back for those guys now?
A ton. Have you seen what the starting pitcher market is this winter? It's ridiculous. Let me give people a couple of examples. Frankie Montas was awful after he got traded from the A's to the Yankees in 2022. He missed basically all of 2023. And the Reds signed him to a 1-year deal for $16 million. Chris Sale is owed $27.5 million, is coming off injury issues, is older now. We'll see if he's as effective now. The Red Sox just got back a second baseman in Vaughn Grissom with very good upside and 6 years of club control. Like, you want to keep going down the list? Lucas Giolito just got nearly $20 million a year.
He was so bad.
Giolito, yeah.
And he got 2 years.
2 years for $38.5 million. So he got nearly $20 million a year. That's what the bottom end of the starting pitching market is getting. You want to talk about Bryce Miller or Bryan Wu? 2 guys who have not started their service clocks yet, have shown crazy upside, have really good stuff, and people are vying for young starting pitching. Oh, that price is getting jacked up.
And how about a starter in Seth Lugo, who has been a starter for 1 full season? 1 full season in his prime, he has been a starter, and he got 3 years guaranteed at $15 million a pop. That's pretty crazy. Now, here's what I propose to you. The price for Bryan Miller and Bryce Wu very well may...
Flip those around.
Bryce Miller and Bryan Wu.
There
we go. Tripping over myself. I've talked too much today. If the price really is, it's probably not 2 All-Stars. That's a lot. 2 All-Stars is a stretch. But 2 big league bats, 2 top-tier hitting prospects, that very well could be the price. But as I said to you, that is only the price if a team is willing to give up for it. So if the Mariners tell the Tampa Bay Rays, hey, we have Bryan Wu available, we would like Yandy Diaz and Randy Arozarena, we will take every cent they are owed for the next however many seasons they're under contract. We'll take them on, and you get Bryan Wu, and we'll give you another prospect as well to throw in there, because that's probably how it would balance out. Like, if the Rays say no to that, that's not the price. Unfortunately, even if that's what we think Bryan Wu's worth, that's not the price. What if you go to the Orioles? And what if you walk up to, what's his name, Mike Elias?
Mm-hmm.
Mike Elias. You walk up to Mike Elias and you say, hey, Mike, I will give you Bryce Miller, but in return, we want Heston Kjerstad and we want Colby Mayo as well, who's MLB ready at AAA right now for the Orioles on the infield. And then Heston Kjerstad is a stud, and he's supposed to mash in the big leagues. If Mike Elias says no, unfortunately, that's not the price. So we're going to see what the market will dictate with this, because they very well could be worth that, but that's a lot to ask a team to give up for something. I told you, I don't even know if it's proven yet in those 2 starting pitchers.
Then I would tell you, if that's not the price, the Mariners probably are not trading him. And in that case, they would sign James Paxton simply for starting pitcher depth, which is fine. The Mariners can use starting pitcher depth. Most teams can use starting pitching depth. And in that scenario, if everybody's even healthy at all at the point that Robbie Ray comes back, then you could use Paxton as a long reliever. Again, if you want to use a 6-man rotation at some point to manage some innings for Wu and Miller, you could do that and have an extra guy right at your side. So there's a few things they could do with this. However, I would opt to go with the side of, if they're going to sign James Paxton, not only is a trade likely to happen for one of those arms, but they probably feel like they have something close to in place. Otherwise, I bet you they wouldn't be this serious about it. Again, there are things Paxton could do, even if there's no trade on the table. He could just be depth. He could help with a 6-man rotation. But I would guess if they're going to pay $8 to $12 million for James Paxton, which is probably what he's going to cost, because again, the starting pitcher market's nuts. You're not signing Paxton for $2 million. If they're going to sign Paxton, I bet you there is something close to getting over the finish line with a trade.
Especially given the Mariners' budget this offseason, you can't just go around throwing $12 million. I mean, bitch all you want. Like, we have complained about the payroll. But if they're going to add $12 million of payroll in someone who they can't even guarantee will start 15 games this year, there better be something else lined up right there. Because that's the only way this makes sense to label yourself as a contender and someone that you say we're getting better this offseason. Like that would be it. That swing a trade like that would make you better this offseason. And the best part about this, it makes you better beyond this season too, which is what Jerry keeps harping about, right? He keeps harping, we want to be sustainable. We want to be young. We want to have young, exciting, athletic players. Well, this allows you to do that if you were able to pull this off. This hinges on James Paxton saying yes. He might have not said yes yet, but that information just does not get out. It does not get out without players' approval. I mean, it's not like some fan was like peeking up into John Stanton's box at the Winter Classic and like, cracking her up 2-0. It's like, like wonder if John Stanton's up there. I brought my binoculars. It's like searching. Oh, is that a maple leaf tattoo on his left arm? What? Oh, it's James Paxton up there. Huh.
Is there an eagle on his shoulder?
Potentially. I wouldn't have been shocked if someone was actually trying to stalk John Stanton's owner's suite. I think that would have been very on brand. People were like, this is the only way I'm getting into T-Mobile Park this offseason to try and make my stamp on something that's been frustrating. Let's see what Johnny Boy is up to.
Yeah, you're right. It's not some fan that took a picture saying, is this Big Maple in the owner's suite? It's not some fan that posted it. No, it's a real report. So I would say this. I've pieced this out into two different proposals. Let's say it's the Rays. We've heard the Rays a lot. Let's say they're interested. I mean, Yandy Diaz and Randy Arozarena would be an unreal return. I would be jumping for joy if they got both of those guys in a trade for one arm. But the one I cooked up was still Paredes and Randy, which are still two phenomenal players. Again, Isaac Paredes, talk about his batted ball profile all you want. He led third baseman in WRC plus this past year. Led it. It's a very good offensive position. I would say a trade like that would probably cost one of the arms and then would probably cost some prospects. The guys I threw in a potential prospect trade, I said Gabby Gonzalez and I said Michael Arroyo. So that's a high upside infielder, high upside outfielder. They're both inside the Mariners' top 10. It would probably cost a little bit more to get proven bats like that. But if it's guys that are on the similar scale to where Miller and Wu are, so you want to go over to the Orioles here and let's say Heston Kjerstad and Kobe Mayo, or maybe in the Mariners world, let's say they like Jordan Westberg better than Kobe Mayo, and it was Kjerstad and Westberg, I think that would just cost the arm. I don't think that would cost any prospects. Again, look at what the market has been. The Mariners are not going to have to trade some haul to get back. I mean, sorry, let me rephrase that statement. It is a haul to give up one of these young arms. Both of these guys are incredible talents with really high upside. We've seen the splitter from Bryce Miller this winter. The Mariners will be giving up a haul, but to also get a haul. And to get the haul of an infielder and an outfielder at two positions of need with 6 years of club control, that is a lot for the Mariners to get back. I don't think it's going to cost more than one arm. Look at what the market's been. This is the price for pitching. So I think if they went to the Orioles and wanted two of those guys, there's a world they could get them.
And the key there is unproven, because if you walked up to the Orioles and you said, well, I want Gunnar Henderson, if they said yes to that, that's 1-for-1, flat out. If that, it might, well, it might.
I think that trade just gets shut down. I think the Orioles are saying no chance we're moving
Probably
on.
Not.
From Gunnar.
He'll be nice. I think he would fit right in. But you're right. I don't think they ever say yes. And that's I'm gonna come back to my point about the Mariners offering up these two arms, because we know what they value and we know what the market values them at. That is a lot for a team to give up. Like the Rays want to win next year. Like flat out, they want to win next year. And trading Randy and Isaac Paredes for, again, not a proven starter. Like let's be very clear. Bryce Miller and Bryan Wu have shown you some great things on the mound. They have shown you they have the ability to be big league starters over months this past season. Now, the key word there is ability. They have shown you the ability, but they are not proven by any stretch. They have not pitched enough to get the proven label thrown on them. So that is a huge risk for these teams to give up multiple big league caliber bats for someone you can't guarantee is a success. You can't. As high as we are on them, you cannot guarantee that. And that will come around to the teams having to make the ultimate decision whether they feel like that the market rate is worth it. And if they don't feel like the market rate is worth it, then unfortunately that's not the market for Bryce Miller and Bryan Wu.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. I'm just sitting here. Where was I going with this thought? I had something pop into my head. All right, I'll circle back to it. But, I know what I was going to say. Your point about being proven. George Kirby, after 2 years, is now proven. What Logan Gilbert did after 2022, paired with 2021, by that point, entering 23, he was proven. Bryce Miller and Bryan Wu are very good. And they have, like you said, they've shown the ability to be really good starting pitchers. I think another year under their belt is how you can really justify prove it. Because Bryan Wu was on a very short innings limit this year. They had to really manage him. Bryce Miller was really good at the start and then had his hills and valleys at points of the year, which is pretty normal for a rookie. I think if they have another good year too, each of them, then they are truly proven. But just because they are not technically as proven as Kirby and Gilbert doesn't mean they don't warrant a lot of value. Because again, I don't think the Mariners are making this trade unless they are really getting a haul back. You've heard Ryan Divish report. They don't really want to trade one of these starters. They have it's not that they don't have an incentive. It's not that they don't have an incentive to, but it's not like they're jumping at the bit to do it. I think they're really going to have to be blown away to deal one of these guys off. And if they do, it's going to be a haul.
Is there a more realistic, is there a better trade option in baseball that's realistic for any team? Is there a more valuable trade asset? I'm trying to think out there. I was thinking if the Phillies had Andrew Painter, that's his name, right? Healthy. He's 20. He was the number one pitching prospect last year, but he's had Tommy John. He's still recovering. If he pitched in the big leagues, I would put him over him. But otherwise, who? Grayson Rodriguez?
And, he's had injury problems. He's had his ups and downs, just like any rookie starter has. If you're a team that truly believes what a lot of the baseball world seems to believe and what a lot of scouts appear to believe, that Bryan Wu truly has frontline stuff and has the ability to pitch toward the top of a rotation when he's in his prime, then no. And if you believe that Bryce Miller is like that, then also no. Because where in the world else are you getting a guy that has 6 years of club control and has shown flashes of being a really good big league starter with high upside that's on the market? That doesn't happen. Mm-hmm. It's only happening with the Mariners because their pitching is so ridiculous.
Yeah, and guys like Grayson Rodriguez are not on the market because the Orioles don't have pitching. There's a reason we're proposing this trade. What are the odds we think this happens now? What do we think?
I would say James Paxton is currently not signed. If James Paxton, where we sit this second, I would say more like 20 to 25%. If Paxton gets signed, probably somewhere in the 50 to 60% range.
I was going to be a little higher. I was going to say, especially since that information got out, 50% right now.
Oh, okay.
And if the information wasn't out, then we'd probably still be very low because all we have is Jerry's words to go on. But with the information we've been given, it just seems like something's going to happen. This stuff is not everything is calculated. Everything is calculated. Shohei Ohtani was on a fake plane because it was calculated to make the Dodgers increase their offer by $100 million. Yeah. That's why these things happen. The amount of information that goes on behind the scenes that we have no idea about, the average fan who doesn't really care about these things, you'd be kind of surprised the amount of things that are known behind the scenes that the public never knows about because they just never become public. And the little tidbits of information that agents and players and owners and GMs make public are for strategic reasons.
Oh, I'd love to be a fly on the wall for a week inside the Mariners front office walls during the offseason. I just love to be a fly on the wall. You just hear Jerry, Justin, the front office group again, I don't know exactly what goes into their day-to-day, but assuming they are working on potential offseason acquisitions daily, just hearing the names that get thrown out there, the contracts that might be getting thrown out there, what agents are saying, what other teams are saying, I would soak it all up. It's two people who are just baseball nuts like we are and are so invested in the Mariners. Oh, I'd love to sit and be a fly on the wall for a week and just hear all that stuff. I do. There's one other thing I wanted to throw out.
I was going to say, there's also one other team that we didn't mention, the Cincinnati Reds.
Oh, that's not the other team I was going to mention. I was going to say the Cardinals.
Yeah, the Cardinals are okay. So that's two other teams, same division, so close enough. It would not be Jonathan India. Nope. I would. Nope. I don't approve. No. I don't. I flat out just say no. Absolutely. The call is ended. It is over.
You know what? Let me just add on. If Bryce Miller or Bryan Wu is traded for Jonathan India, tune into that podcast, please.
Yeah. The other options where this has been thrown out there, they could trade back for Noelvi Marte and Spencer Steer, I think. That's not as enticing as the first two options we listed, but that's one out there. That might be a little on the low end. Oh, dog. You get Jake Fraley back. That honestly, that honestly is not the worst idea in the world. Jake Fraley. So he does everything you want.
So Noelvi Marte, Spencer Steer, Jake Fraley.
Yeah, I mean, you'd fill an outfield spot, 2 infield spots. Jake hits. He hits now. He hit this year.
I mean, he hit a little bit with the Mariners in 21 too. So
yeah,
sure, and he walked.
Mm-hmm. He would have a spot.
Yeah, he would. Look, Noelvi had a good little stint in the majors when he got up. Now, is it going to sustain? Is he really going to live up to that top 20 prospect status he once upon a time had? Or is this just a flash in the pan? We'll see. Yeah, the Reds would be interesting. The Cardinals, again, circle back to all those same names. Brendan Donovan, Nolan Gorman. Maybe if the Mariners threw in some other prospects, again, maybe Jordan Walker's on the table all of a sudden, although I bet you the Cardinals probably steer away from trading him. But there are some teams that make a lot of sense. Is there a mystery team out there we're not thinking about? Like, all 4 of those teams make sense, and there are teams that have been connected with the Mariners this winter. Is there that was the next question I was going to ask before you threw out that last thing of yours. Is there any other teams out there that might be slept on?
There are, because there are a bunch of teams that need starting pitching. The problem is they couldn't afford it. The Mariners would never say yes. Well, we're listing teams that have the assets and the things the Mariners need, and guys that we think are available, actually, opposed to teams that have a need at starting pitching but don't have any fits for the Mariners. Like, wouldn't you love to swap for Josh Young, the Rangers? Wouldn't that be great? Like, the Rangers need starting pitching next season, but they're never going to give up Josh Young, so the conversation just ends. And
the Mariners are not making that trade in division.
No, they're not. And the Rangers wouldn't either, because they love Josh Young. I mean, the dude started at 3rd in the All-Star game.
Mm-hmm. At the beginning of the offseason, I might have thrown the Dodgers out there, but something tells me their need for starting pitching has kind of waned in recent weeks.
I think they like proven starters.
Yeah.
I think they can pay up.
I was going to say, with something like Miller or Wu for James Outman and maybe somebody else makes some sense at the beginning of the offseason.
No. Do the Dodgers even have the prospects to trade anymore? I don't think so. They gave them up.
Yeah, I mean, Outman would be a good start. He put up 4 wins as an outfielder in his rookie year, but it would probably cost a little bit more than that, right, for a starting pitcher with 6 years of control?
Yes. Yeah.
So that one probably, again, this is just a total hypothetical, because the Dodgers do not need starting pitching anymore.
It's funny, when you stack your roster full of elite big league players, you just don't really have room for your young position players to showcase themselves. And it's really unfortunate, because you and I will never know if the Dodgers actually have young players who are big league ready that would make good trade fits. We don't know, because the Dodgers are like, you know what, we're just going to try and win instead.
One of the few we've gotten to see is Outman, and the Dodgers being the Dodgers, a guy who was not some raved about prospect. He was a late round draft pick. He was taken in the 8th, 9th, 10th round. And now he is a 4-win outfielder and probably sticking in center field for a long time for the Dodgers. Yeah, who else could maybe think about starting pitching? Oh my God. Have you seen any of this Red Sox Twitter stuff the last few days?
No, I haven't.
I don't know what they're sipping over there in Boston, but I have seen some Red Sox tweets that are just insanity. Like, first off, they think like Logan Gilbert is very much expendable for the Mariners, and the packages that they're trying to put together to send back in their mind, they think is great. They've been making arguments for Cutter Crawford, who, by the way, put up an 0.1 B-WAR as a rookie, and said him and like one other guy would probably do it for Logan Gilbert. In fact, if they've been making points saying if Cutter Crawford was in Seattle, people would rave about him like he's an ace. I was like, I don't think that's how it works.
Wow. I didn't
Oh,
know.
dude,
I didn't know Logan Gilbert was so popular in Boston.
Dude, again, I don't know what these Red Sox fans have been sipping, but they're off their rocker with some of these ideas.
I thought they cleaned all the tea out of the harbor anyways. That's stupid.
Yeah.
That's funny. Don't you love Reddit? Is that where you found that?
No, that was Twitter. It's very much on Twitter.
Wow. Okay. Well, I could only imagine what the Reddit discussion would be. Man, who else needs starters? I mean, the Braves need starters, but I don't know who they're trading.
I don't think they'd trade much of anybody in that starting 9 for a starter, unless you think they'd get rid of Ozzie Albies, but they just got rid of Vaughn Grissom, so I don't know who'd play second base in that scenario.
Exactly. So in terms of contenders and teams you'd be okay sending to, and you also got to consider the return. So most of the teams, like right away, like the A's could use Bryan Wu. Lyle, you don't want Tony Kemp?
Okay. Well, if you're throwing out teams like that, the Rockies need starters, the Pirates need starters. Like, if you want to go that route, sure.
Well, Pirates actually isn't quite as terrible.
No, it's not, because they're actually building something and getting a lot better. That's probably a bad example. But yeah, the Rockies, the A's, the Angels need starting pitching. Like, if you want to go down that route, sure. But I don't think that's exactly where the Mariners are targeting their
You're
focus.
telling me you don't want Logan O'Hoppe?
Yeah, because this team needs more catchers after signing Mitch Garver, who's not really going to catch, and trading for Sebby Zavala this winter, and already having Cal Raleigh. Could Toronto make some sense? No, I mean, they kind of have some starting pitching in place. I'm just thinking about how they have bats.
So is that like a Bo Bichette for Bryan Wu?
The Mariners would have to give up more than that.
They would. They would probably have to do that. So Bryan Wu in a top 5 prospect for Bo Bichette.
Yeah, if not more, to be honest.
That would work. Yeah, that would work. I don't know if Vladdy would cost quite as much because he's doesn't play a premier position and hasn't had a great offensive season in 2 years. Mm-hmm. But you'd probably still need to give up another prospect on top of that. I mean, that's not a terrible thing, but I just don't know if they're giving up on those guys this offseason, especially since they didn't land the big fish. And if Cody Bellinger doesn't sign there, then they would be actively making their lineup worse. Well, like, in theory, if everything works out with Bryan Wu or Bryce Miller, the rotation's getting better, but it very well might not. It might not.
And look, Toronto has a good rotation already. It's a playoff level rotation, but young starting pitching can do a lot. And that's a team that can still use more starters. Again, Gausman is great. Barrios is locked up on a contract. You still have Yusei Kikuchi, but Alek Manoah, you have no idea. Like, there are spots to fill in that rotation. They don't have the depth that the Mariners have. So if they were serious about adding pitching, maybe. Yeah, there's teams out there that could use it. I'm sure we could spitball a few more if we really wanted to. But I think at the end of this hypothetical conversation, I think the 2 teams that make the most sense that are in the A-level tier would be the Rays and the Orioles. And the next tier down would be the Cardinals and the Reds.
Mm-hmm. I'll concur with that. Which would you prefer? It's the Rays, right?
It has to be, because those guys are proven. They are stars that make you better right now. Again, say what you want to say about Isaac Paredes. Oh yeah, his batted ball profile. We know, it's been talked about enough. But you know what? WRC Plus cuts through a lot of ballpark factor stuff. So I'm not saying there's no concerns with Paredes. We talked about what those are. But if you're getting the guy who led third baseman in WRC Plus to play a position of very, very much need right now, sign me up.
And let me just cut to the chase here. If you want to win, if you want to see this team get significantly better, at this point, this needs to happen. This needs to happen. They need to go do this to take that next step. It's going to have to happen. It's going to suck. Bryan Wu could be starting an all-star game in 3 years. That's how good he is. He could be. But if you want this to happen, this has to happen. And this needs to happen this offseason as well. And yeah, it might be uncomfortable if the Mariners have to go out there, trade Bryan Wu, and hey, maybe they have to trade Cole Emerson as well to the Rays because that's what the price is. Maybe they have to do that. But at this point, you got to do what you got to do because the bill has come. The time is right frickin' now. Right now. Mm-hmm. Unhug your prospects and go make the moves. Boom.
And if the Rays really are not going to budge, then go to the Orioles. It's not quite the proven bats of the Rays, but you know what? If you get Heston Kjerstad for 6 years and either Kobe Mayo or Jordan Westberg for 6 years, if that's the package, you have to do it. You have a surplus of pitching and not enough hitting. You cannot run Luis Urias out there as your third baseman every day for 162 games. You cannot have what is currently projected in right field to be your answer for a team that claims to be contending for a World Series. Again, a bunch of utility guys and other outfielders that you can throw into the mix in right field being your solution. That's not going to work.
No, it's not. And if you need a refresher, check out our Friday episode, please. We have laid out the Mariners lineup spot by spot. And you sit there and you look, and it's like, it's not a playoff lineup. I know we did say some nice things, but they're not a playoff lineup. That's not a playoff lineup.
No, it's not. But you know what would make the Mariners a playoff lineup? If they go make one of these moves, especially if it's the Rays.
Mm-hmm. I'm interested to see how the Orioles trade would work out this season. Like, would they be better this year with those guys? This year? Like, better than the current group? Yes. Better than last year with those Orioles guys this season?
It's not a guarantee. Those guys may have some learning to do. Kobe Mayo has crushed the minor leagues. But we know it's a big jump. We saw it with Jared Kelenic. We've seen it with other guys that have made their way to the big leagues from the minors. That just because they crushed it in the minor leagues doesn't mean it's an immediate transition. But I think that in long term, absolutely it makes them better. And if you mean worse in the sense of they won 88 games last year, could they win somewhere from 86 to 88, maybe 89 again with this roster if that's all they do? And get into the playoffs and have a run the way the Diamondbacks did, who got in with less wins than the Mariners? Sure. Are you locking in that this roster with the Orioles trade would be better than the Mariners? No, because Kjerstad and Mayo both have developing to do, and they are not totally proven yet.
And then your outfield would be Dom, Kjerstad, and Julio. Mm-hmm. Is Julio still the youngest of those three?
Yeah. Well, Kjerstad was the number 2 pick, again, out of college, out of Arkansas.
I know. That is so funny to think about. It's like, yep, not worried about the 23-year-old. No. But the other two, we'll watch out.
Again, I think Dom's going to have a good year. I really do. Like I think he's going to click this year. And I think Kjerstad has a chance to have a good year too. But it doesn't guarantee that they are going to be better than last year.
Correct. It doesn't. And it doesn't guarantee, and we can't unfortunately guarantee either of those guys are going to be good because we just haven't seen it at the big league level. You can crush the minors all you want. You can crush AAA all you want, but when push comes to shove, needs to happen at the big league level, and we haven't seen it.
Let me throw out this potential lineup as we start to close out the show. Let's say they make the trade with the Rays. JP leads off. Julio hits second. You've got, let's put Arozarena third. Let's put Cal fourth. Paredes fifth. Garver sixth. Ty France seventh. Canzone eighth. Josh Rojas ninth. I like that lineup.
That checks out. Like, here are the things that lineup does. I mean, first of all, the depth of the lineup. You can keep the left-right mix at least somewhat. If Mitch Garver is batting sixth, that's pretty good.
And that's what he should be doing. Again, if they make a couple more impact moves, that's where Garver should be hitting. And he's a good hitter. But you know where he hit for the Rangers? Right around there. He wasn't hitting third or fourth. He was hitting toward the middle to bottom end of the lineup and was really good.
I'm down. You don't have to convince me of that. I will wish Bryan Woo the best of luck in his endeavors to Tampa Bay if they can pull that off.
Yeah, or Bryce Miller.
Or Bryce Miller. That makes the Mariners better, both from last season and into the future as well.
Paredes has 4 years of control. Randy's got 3.
Mm-hmm.
You could always extend them in a couple years if you're interested in an extension, but that fits the window, right? Until all these guys start to get really expensive, those are guys that are in this window.
It fits both the future and current window, which is really what you want. And it's not even overly expensive. Like, if we can bitch and complain about money, that money should not be an issue with that lineup in any way. You shouldn't have to worry about, we don't have enough cash to pay for everyone. Really? Not with that lineup. And it would still be good. You'd still be great. You'd still be a playoff caliber team. So I don't want to hear any of that if that happens. It should not happen.
Yeah. They've got to do something. And if they go sign James Paxton, I would tell people to buckle up, because while it's not going to be a 100% guarantee they make a trade, I would expect it at that point. I would expect something.